संबंधेन सिद्धस्य निवृत्ति रूप साध्य संबंधित्वम इति एतावता साध्यत्वम औपचारिकम इति अनवद्यम. So this vyapti, the only when nivritti is there, then alone the audasyanyam is there. Therefore, samanadikaranyena sambandhena siddhasya nivritti rupa sadhya sambandhitvam. Nivritti rupa sadhyam. Sadhya is what? Nivritti. Tat sambandhitvam. Uparaga is sambandha. Since audasanyam is sambandhi means audasanyam is connected with nivritti which is sadhya. It etavata, only from that standpoint, sadhyatvam aupacharikam. In audasanyam also, there is sadhyatvam in a secondary sense. Primarily, sadhyatvam is in nivritti, and since audasanyam is connected with nivritti, therefore in audasanyam also, there is sadhyatvam in aupacharika sense. Okay, so this is nahantavya. Now, Anyatra Prajapati Vratadibhya. What is it? That's the last word of the Bhashyakara. Anyatra Prajapati Vratadibhya. So there are some cases where this na in Nisheda has to be interpreted not as abhava but as virodhi kriya or anya kriya. So there are cases where the na in the pratisheda means not abhava but a kriya. So Bhashyakara says there are special cases where the primary meaning is not applicable, then alone you have to go for lakshana or secondary meaning. So there are cases where the primary meaning of nakara, namely abhava, is not applicable. Therefore we have to go for the implied meaning of kriya, anya kriya or virodhi kriya. We do accept that there are exceptions, but they are only exceptions and not rule. And that exception is quoted here by Bhashyakara, Anyatra Prajapati Vratadibhya. There is a Prajapati Vrata and some other Vrata like that, in which this na has to be interpreted as kriya, meaning virodhi kriya or anya kriya. That part is now being explained by Purnananda Ratnabhava in Purnananda. Says on the page 186, Nanu nekshetodyantamaadityamityado ikshana virodhini Manasi sankalpa kriya neksheta iti vidhiyate. So there is a Prajapati Vrata. It is said that when this Batu, tasya batoho vratam. Batu means this student who has gone to Gurukula. He is a Batu means a brahmachari now. And he has completed his study. And now he is going to enter the grihastha. At that time, at that stage, he has to follow what we call Prajapati Vrata. To create some apurva for that boy, so that he becomes prepared for the grihastha ashrama. That must be the reason. And therefore that Batu is supposed to follow certain vrata or certain vows of doing something or not doing something. So not doing something also becomes a kriya sometimes. Usually doing alone is kriya, but sometimes not doing also becomes a kriya, which requires a sankalpa on your part to not do something. When, by way you might see, like the moon, you should not see the moon of the Chathurthi, they may say. And so when you look up the sky, then the moon may come, then you must remember today is Chathurthi, I should not look at the moon. In which case you will maintain that sankalpa of not seeing the moon. So there are some cases, like the Prajapati Vrata says, Nekshet Udyantamadityam. This Batu should not see as the sun. Udyantamadityam na iksheta. The rising sun he should not see. Nastam yantam kadachana. Astam yantam. And the Aditya of the sun, which is setting sun also he should not see. Nopusrishtam. Nopusrishtam grahoparaktam. Vakradi upasargayuktam cha. So either grahoparaktam, when there is an eclipse, Aditya of the sun is an eclipse, partially or fully, then also he should not see that sun. Na varistham, he should not also see the sun that is reflected in water. Na madhyanavasogatam, he should not see the sun also which is in the zenith, madhyanavas. Oh, we have to study that vrata to determine why this is so. But I guess the idea is he should be doing something else at that time, rather than looking around and wasting his time. What should he be doing? Serving his guru. So, in the morning also he should be there. While the sun is rising, he should be doing something rather than wandering around. While the sun is setting, while the sun is in the middle, the guru must require him in the morning for his morning kriya, the evening for the evening kriya, the midday for the midday kriya, the eating, I don't know. Or some other things are to be done, japa, etc. So, he should not see the sun in all these conditions. When grahana is there, then he should do japa. He should not go out and say that. But that's the time when japa should be done. And so morning, evening and afternoon, you must do sandhya-vandanam, etc. Whatever be the reason. But of course, sandhya-vandanam requires the seeing the sun. This person is asked not to see the sun. That's a vrata. Tasya batoho vratam. This is a vow for this batu or a brahmachari or the student. So here now it is said, Purnanandaya says, Nanu nekshetodyantamaadityamityadau Ikshana virodhini manasi sankalpa kriya na iksheta ide vidhiyate. In that actually you must do the sankalpa. I should not see the sun. I should not see the rising sun. I should not see the setting sun, etc. Tatha na hanyaditi hanan virodhini manasi sankalpa kriya eva vidhiyata. Why not you say that na hantavya or na hanyad? There also there is a manasi kriya which is hanan virodhini manasi kriya is enjoined here. Why not? Just that as it is the case with Prajapati Vrata. So, Ratnavara said, Tasya vatoho vratam iti anushteya kriya vachi vrata shabdena karyam upakramya. There is a section where it says, Tasya vatoho vratam. This is a vrata or vow for this batu. Iti anushteya kriya vachi vrata shabdena. Vrata or vow is something that you must perform. Vow is not a bhava. Vow is, when you take a vow of doing something, then it involves a kriya. Every vow involves a kriya. Even Ekadashi Vratam, the natural, then you must not eat. So you have to maintain that sankalpa. Nahi Swamiji, aaj to upvas hai. Today I will not eat. Take something. No. So that sankalpa must be maintained. Otherwise, normally you eat, but then sankalpa must be maintained. So wherever vrata is there, that I will go and have this darshan, I will do this, or whatever vrata or vows that we take, those vows actually involve a positive action on the part of this person. So, manasi sankalpa kriya is always involved, sankalpa kriya, vrata involves. Na ikshedati vidhiyate tathacha, na hanyadati. So, that it was said, vatoho vratamiti anushteya kriya vachi vrata shabdena karyam upakramya. There, this particular section says we are now going to describe vrata, which is what this batu or this student should do. Iti karyam upakramya. Thus, the upakrama or beginning was with the statement that we are now going to talk about the vrata or the vows that this boy should take. Then subsequently said, nekshetodyantamaadityamiti prajapati vratamuktam. In that section it is said that he should not see the rising sun, should not see the setting sun, etc. Therefore, ataha upakrama balat tatra nayaha ikshana virodhi sankalpa kriya lakshana angikrita. Upakrama is what? Tasya batoho vratam. Upakrama of that section is of the nature of kriya, of vow. And then this thing appears in that section. Therefore we believe that na iksheta or one should not see involves a manasik kriya. Upakrama balat. In keeping, because upakrama and upasamhara determine the tatparya. And therefore that's one of the linga. So tatparya there is in anusthana kriya vidhi. So tatra nayaha ikshana virodhi sankalpa kriya lakshana. There virodhi kriya lakshana varti instead of kriya abhava, which should have been the vachyartha, we have to take lakshanartha in the sense of virodhi kriya in that particular case. Angikrita. So there we have to take the virodhi kriya as the meaning of the virodha, as the meaning of the word, as the meaning of na. That's what it said here, Purnanandaya. Prajapratyasanyakam vratam. Okay. Tasya vatoho vratam. Prajapratyasanyakam vratam. Tasya vatoho vratam iti Guru Shushrushadi Anushtaya Kriyarupa Karyopakramat. That this Batu should do Guru Shushrusa, serving the teacher, ityadi anushteya kriya rupa karya upakramat. The introduction was there with some karya that he should do of the nature of guru, shushusha, etc. Tu virodhi sankalpa kriyayam nai shabdasya lakshanangi krita. So instead of bhava, in the viro sense of virodha, we have to take the lakshanavrutti or the secondary meaning of nai. Tad atra kim na apavadakam kaschidasti. Tadvadatra, here also na hantavya iti. Kinna apavadakam kinchidasti. Don't you have some apavadakam here? You can put it that way. Isn't there some apavadakam? Like in case of that Prajapati Vrata, there is apavadakam. Isn't there an apavadakam, an exception here? Yena virodhi kriyayam lakshanam angikritya sa vidhiyeta. That here also Vinaya should be interpreted as virodhi, and that we can interpret this nahantavya also as some kind of manasi sankalpa kriya. Or na apavadakam kinchidasti. There is no apavadakam. Yena virodhi kriyayam lakshanam angikritya sa vidhiyeta. So there is no vidhanam because there is no virodhi kriya involved here in nahantavya. Then says Purna Ratnabhava, evam agauhu asuraha adharmaha ityadu namadhatvartha yuktasya nayah pratishedavachitva ayogat anya viruddha lakshakatvam. Elsewhere also, agauhu is what? Gauhu, go means cow. Agauhu, this is not a cow. So there, it is what? Adharmaha. So it is not a cow, means something else is there. So virodhi or anyat meaning is there. Adharmaha is what? Dharma virodhi. Asuraha, sura virodhi. Asuraha means the demons. There is virodhi artha is there. Adharmaha means sin or so unbecoming action. That also is virodhi artha. Agauhu there, anya artha is there. Ityadu namadhatvartha yuktasya. Namadhatus are there. So Gauhu, Suraha, Dharma, they are all the names derived from Dhatu. Nayaha, Pratishedavachitva Ayogat. So there, since names are involved there, particular objects are involved, there cannot be absence or non-existence of that object in this case, and therefore, Anya Viruddha Lakshakatvam, Na is to be interpreted as Anya or Viruddha. Says Punandya, Agauhu, Asuraha Ityadu, Namartha Yuktatvam. So there, na is connected with nama. Na iksheta ityatra dhatvartha yuktatvam. So when nakara is connected with dhatvartha, then abhava is the primary meaning. When connected with nama, then you have to take some other meaning like anyadartha or viruddartha. Iti vivekah. Says Purandya, Prajapati Vratadibhya anyatra brahmana hantavya ityadishu प्रतिषेधार्थम मन्यामहे भाष्य योजनाम अभिप्रेत्य व्याचष्टे एतेभ्यः इति. So Prajapati Vratadibhya anyatra, in the places other than this Prajapati Vrata, Brahmana hantavya ityad, in all other vakyas such as Brahmana hantavya, Pratishedhartham manyamahe, nayartha, that nayartha brings about the negation alone, that's what we say, not anya artha, anya kriya or virodhi kriya. Iti bhashya yojana viparita vyachast etebhya, says Ratnavara, etebhya Prajapati Vratadibhya anyatra abhavameva nayartha manyamahe ityartha. So, etebhya Prajapati Vratadibhya, from this Prajapati etc. anyatra elsewhere abhavameva nayartha manyamahe. In other cases, abhava should be the meaning of nay, iti artha. दुख अभाव फल के नए अर्थ सिद्धे निषेध शास्त्र मानत्वत् वेदांतानां ब्रह्मणि भानत्वम मानत्वम इति भावः. बिफोर दैट सो दुख अभाव फल के नए अर्थे सिद्धे निषेध शास्त्र मानत्वत्. सो नय इज व्हाट? एन औदासीन्यम इति सिद्धम. So we have shown by the discussion Brahmana hantavya, in that this Pratisheda Vakya only brings about, reveals what? Audasanyam, which is Siddham, or the Anishta Sadhanatvam in Hananam, that is revealed, or Dukkha Sadhanatvam of Hananam is revealed, So anishta sadhanatvam or ishta sadhanatva abhavaha. In India, they cannot start a scooter or motorcycle or close it without doing this. I don't know why, what's the big deal about it, but anyway, you have to make noise somehow. So, dukkha abhava phalake nayarthe siddhe. Nayarthe is what? Dukkha abhava phala. Dukkha abhava phalam yasya saha dukkha abhava phalakaha. Nayartha. So, nayartha which has dukkha abhava as a result. Siddhe. So that is already siddham. Hananam, ahananam, or not hananam is brings about dukkha bhava, which is already there. The point is the person also right now there is dukkha bhava. Meaning he is not dukkhi. If he kills, then dukkha will come. So not killing brings about what dukkha bhava. Meaning not killing maintains his dukkha bhava. Right now he is all right, not in the prison. Suppose he kills somebody, then definitely he has to go to prison. Then he will be dukkhi naturally. Therefore, not killing maintains his freedom, or not killing maintains his dukkha bhava. Dukkha bhava, which is already obtaining, is maintained by nahantavya. And not anything new is established, or no new kriya is enjoined here. Siddhe arthe, now we are coming back to siddhe arthe pramanatvam. All the Nisheda Vakyas have their pramanyam or their validity in siddhartha. Dukkha bhava, which is already there, or audasinyam, which is already there, that alone is what is meant by Pratisheda Vakya, and therefore Pratisheda Vakyas reveal something that is already existing. What? Dukkha bhava, or audasinyam, or anishta sadhanatvam, or balavat anishta sadhanatvam, which is there in Hananam, that is revealed. Or dukkha sadhanatvam, which is there in Hananam, also is revealed. So the anishta sadhanatvam, which is there in a particular kriya, is revealed by the Pratisheda Vakya. Or dukkha bhava, which is already obtaining, that alone is accomplished by Pratisheda Vakya. Or audasanyam, which although is already existing, alone is in fact brought about or revealed by Pratisheda. So it is shown by the arguments that this Pratisheda Vakya has it means what? Siddharthe tatparyam. Has this tatparya in siddhartha, in revealing something which is already obtaining or existing. So don't say that Vedas do not have vakyas which reveal siddhartha. Vedas also have vakya which you consider pramanam, which only reveals siddhartha. Then Vedanta also can reveal Brahman which is siddhartham. So what's the problem there? Says siddhe nished shastra manatvavat. Just as Nisheda Shastra has this pramanyam in Siddhartha, Tadvat Vedantanam Brahmani Manatvam. So Brahma also is Siddhartha, and we say that Vedanta also have their pramanyam in revealing Brahman, which is Siddhartha. So their contention that Siddhartha or Vedas never deal with something which is already obtaining. We said that Vedas also reveal something that is obtaining. Anishta sadhanam, because the person does not know. Apaurusha. There are things which are there, but they are not known by the Purusha. For that, Veda is a pramanam. So, similarly, every Shastra is pramanam. They will tell you, Mahatmas will tell you in the words that don't eat these leaves and don't eat this fruit. When you are living in forest or traveling in forest, you must know all those vegetation very well. Mahatmas know them very well. What are useful, what is medicinal value, what is food value, and what is dangerous, all of that they know. So there are some Mahatmas who have lived on leaves because they know which leaves can be eaten and which can sustain you. If you and I, somebody was telling me that they were traveling, they were at Uttarkashi, they were staying overnight at Uttarkashi. In the morning they must have gone out, for whatever. So this person here, he saw one tree and he wanted to do his that brush. So normally you take lemon, little not lemon, neem, or the vata vriksha. So you take a little branch of that and use it as brush. So one tree looked like that. And this fellow took that branch and brushed his teeth. And he lost all the 32 teeth right away. All of them fell down right away. So maybe that is what you should do. Of course, the dentists are not required if such a thing. But regardless of that, when you don't know what is what, then there's some really very unfortunate or undesirable consequence can arise. So we do not know that there is anishta sadhanatvam in that particular tree or branch of the tree. That has to be revealed by somebody. And therefore, you require Shastra for that, you see. And similarly, there is anishta sadhanatvam, is hananam, etc., surapanam, whatever, or kalanja bhakshanam, and that is revealed by Shastra. Because raga, on account of the raga, a person has ishta sadhanatva buddhi there. And therefore, anishta sadhanatvam has to be revealed, which is already there, but not evident to this person because of his raga. It may be evident to other people, but not evident to this person because of his impulse, and for that person, this anishta sadhanatvam is revealed by the pratisheda vakya, and that's all they do. He knows an anishta sadhanatvam, that Brahma of ishta sadhanatva goes away, that impulse goes away, the kriya also becomes nivritta, and becomes udasena to that thing. Then he looks at kalanjam, nothing happens to him. Then Sura, no problem. Brahmana, no problem at all, because Audasinyam is there, So, Brahmani Manatvam iti bhava. The whole purpose of the whole discussion is Siddhe Arthe Vedantanam Pramanyam. Well, Purnananda has to write one more passage here at the end. Nanu Nahanyadityadau Dhatvartha yoge sati Nayah Katham Abhavarthakatvam Namadhatvartha yoge tu Naiva Nai Pratishedakahiti Vachana Virodhat. Some Pratisheda Vachanam is there. Nahanyadityadau Dhatvartha yoge sati, when Nakara is connected with Dhatu Han, Nayah Katham Abhavarthakatvam. Why do you say that Na here is in the sense of Abhava or absence of Kriya? Namadhatvartha yoge tu Naiva Nai Pratishedakahiti Vachana. There are so many Vyakarana Vachanas are there, that when Na is connected with Nama Dhatu, then it is not Pratishedaka, it is not Abhava, it is something else. Atra uchyate, this is what you have to say. Vachanascha ayam abhipraya. This is the meaning of that Vachanam. Sometimes grammarians also have to be educated by Vedantins, understand? So everybody is educated by Vedantins. Grammarians and logicians and Mimamsakas, all of them quote their own Vachanas. Which very Vachanas, we show them what should be the meaning, because Vedantis understand life better, therefore they are able to understand their own Shastras better. That's the only thing. So, Vachanasya ayam abhipraya. This is the abhipraya, purport of that Vachanam. This statement. Yatra apavadakamasti tatra namadhatvartha yogabi sa naiva abhavartaka nai bhavati iti. Yatra apavadakamasti. Where apavadakam or some kind of a factor, obstruction is there or exception is there. Tatra namadhatvartha yogabi sa naiva abhavartaka nai bhavati. There, Nai does not become abhavartaka of the nature of absence or non-existence when connected with Namadhatu. Ataheva nekshetodyantamaadityamidyatra karyopakramasya apavadakasya satvat. Since naiksheta udyantamadityam, there tasya vatoho vratam. Since that upakrama was of the nature of karya, so some karma that must be performed, therefore, Naiksheda Udyantamadityam was interpreted as performance of some karma, and that was Apavadaka. That exception, that factor was there. Nayaha na abhavarthakatvam kintu ikshana virodhi sankalpa kriyarthatvam. Therefore, we have to accept that ikshana virodhi kriya sankalpa. Nahanyad ityadautu kasyadidapi apavadakasya abhavad. But in Nahanyad or Brahmana hantavya, there is no apavadaka. There is nothing that will contradict or negate the meaning of abhava. Nayah abhavarthakatvam eva yuktam. So you should always look for primary meaning as abhava. Only when there is something that creates an exception to that, or there is something that needs a different interpretation of naya, then alone you will take a secondary meaning, but primarily you must only take the meaning as abhava. Ityadav tu kasyadapi apavadakasya abhavat nayah abhavarthakatvam eva yuktamidi Shri Vivaranachari Bahuda Prapanchitam. In the what is known as Panchapadika Vivaranam, this must be very elaborately explained or discussed. Tasmat Vachana Viroda Abhavat Nahanyad Ityadav Dhatvarthyadi Anvitopi Nay Pratishedataka eva iti bhavaha. Tasmat Vachana Viroda Abhavat. Therefore, Namadhatvartha yogi tu naiva nay pratishedaka. We are not contradicting that Vachana because that vachanam is only when there is an apavadaka. न हन्यादित्यादौ धात्वर्थादि अन्वितोपि न प्रतिषेधातक एव इति भावः. न हन्याद, even though na is connected with dhatvarth han, then even then it means only pratisheda and not opposite or anyakriya ityartha. And this is how this na bhashya grantha vyakhya is completed. That this is called na bhashya. Bhashyakara is this passage, and this whole vyakhya is thus completed. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sūtra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Tu Samanvayat. Page 182. Yat swasambandhino abhavam bodhayati abhava buddhischa औदासीन्य कारणम साच दग्धनाग्निवत स्वयमेव उपशाम्यते तस्मात् प्रसक्त क्रियानिवृत्त्य उदासीन्यमेव ब्राह्मणो न हन्तव्यः इत्यादिषु प्रतिषेधार्थं मन्यामहे. अन्यत्र प्रजापतिव्रतादिभ्यः नैश्चैष स्वभावः यत् स्वसंबंधिनः अभावं बोधयति. This is the nature of this nakara. Swasambandhinah, whatever it is connected with, abhavam bodhayati. It only reveals sabhava or absence of that with which it is connected. Abhava buddhischa audasinya karanam. And this abhava buddhi, and the Tikakara told us how swasambandhi, what is it that the na can be connected to? It can be connected to prakrutyartha or pratyayartha. Prakriti is han in this case, and so na reveals the prakriti abhava, meaning hanana bhava, or hanana bhava dukkha sadhanam, sukha sadhanam, ishta sadhanam, hananam dukkha sadhanam. This is what ultimately it reveals. Or the tavya pratyaya, which means that balavat anishta asadhanatva sati ishta sadhanatvam. This is what tavya pratyaya reveals. In short, tavya pratyaya reveals ishta sadhanatvam, something desirable. And nakara negates that, absence of desirability, or balavat anishta sadhanatvam. This is what nakara reveals. And this avabuddhi, audasinya karanam, this brings about an audasinyam, brings about nivritti. He has explained how, when one learns that this hananam is dukkha sadhanam, or balavat anishta sadhanam, then because of the bhranti of looking upon hananam as ishta sadhanam, that bhranti that hananam is ishta sadhanam, it will bring about some good. Therefore a raga or impulse was created, and that impulse would have prompted the action of killing. That impulse is quietened, or impulse is removed as a result of removal of bhranti. So bhranti goes away, therefore that impulse goes away, and therefore there is what we call nivritti, kriya nivritti, a cessation or refrainment from that activity. Audasinya karanam. And that nivritti, So abhava buddhisya audasinya karanam. So Bhashyakara says audasinyasya nivritti karanam. Actually, this abhava buddhi, that nayartha, is nivritti karanam, brings about cessation of activity, and that maintains, or that just reveals or manifests the audasinyam which is already there, subhava siddham. So idea is audasinyam, or inactivity, or uninvolvement, is anadi subhava siddhi, is anadi siddham, is ever there. That mind will not get involved in anything unless it is raga or dvesha. Only when raga or dvesha is created, then impulse is created, that the mind will engage into something. When raga and dvesha is not there, mind will remain unengaged by nature. So to remain unengaged by nature is the nature of mind, which was disturbed, that udasinyam was disturbed on account of raga or dvesha. So when raga dvesha goes away as a result of this abhava buddhi, then there is what we call nivritti, or elimination or removal of that kriya, another kriya. And so udasinyam, which is svabhava siddham, is just maintained or is obtained as well. So abhava buddhi is audasinya karanam in a secondary sense. In a primary sense, abhava buddhi is nivritti karanam, and by the way, it becomes also, since audasinyam cannot be unless there is nivritti. Just as sun cannot be seen unless the clouds are removed, and so also audasinyam, which is already my nature, is not evident unless there is a cessation from that activity. Therefore it is said that audasinyam is brought about as though by nivritti. And since abhava buddhi is the cause for nivritti, in a secondary sense it is said abhava buddhi is cause for audasinyam. Sacha dagdhin dhanagnivat swayameva upashamyati. Sacha abhava buddhi, that abhava buddhi swayameva shamyati. Abhava buddhi does something. What does it do? It removes the bhranti, and by that it removes the raga. So when there is abhava buddhi, meaning hanana abhava buddhi, or hananam dukkha sadhanam iti buddhi, that removes the bhranti of hananam as sukha sadhanam, and therefore it also removes the raga. And when the raga is removed, that abhava buddhi also goes away. It is not that all the time the hananam dukkha sadhanam that remains in my mind. When that raga or the impulse of hananam goes away, abhava buddhi has nothing else to do. This is the purpose of abhava buddhi, is to remove that raga. And having done that, it also goes away. Like when we wake up in the morning from a dream, it takes a little while perhaps to own up that dream, waking, that I am awake. But once that I am awake, that buddhi has settled in my mind, it removes that I was sleeping or I was dreaming, that buddhi goes away. And that I am awake, that thought also goes away, because wakefulness is my nature. Since audasinam is my nature, there is no need to maintain that I am udasina. Since being awake is my nature, there is no need to maintain for me the thought that I am awake, because that's a fact. And so also audasinyam, or unengaged, disengagement being my nature, there is no need to maintain that vritti. Having created audasinyam, that abhava buddhi also upashamyati, it also quietens. By removing the obstacle to audasinyam. What is the obstacle to audasinyam? That pravritti. Pravritti was brought about by raga. Raga was brought about by bhranti. So abhava buddhi eliminates bhranti, by that way it eliminates raga, by that way it eliminates pravritti, and thus whatever obstacle there was to audasinyam is eliminated. Having eliminated the obstacle, the abhava buddhi has no further thing to do, no further role to play. Like brahmakara buddhi, aham brahma iti buddhi also. That as long as dehoham, that I am the body, so this buddhi is there, aham brahma, that negates that. And that will be have to maintain as long as dehoham buddhi is there. But once aham brahma, which is my nature, is owned up, there is no need for me to repeat. Just I don't have to repeat I am a man or I am a human being, because that is something that is natural. So what is natural doesn't have to repeat it. Or sacha dagdhan dhanagnivat swayame upashamyati. That sa was interpreted as what? Sacha kriya, isn't it? Yadva. Yeah, sa kriya raganashe swayameva shamyati. Sakriya means this again nivritti also will go away, having given its place to the audasinyam. Idea is whatever brings audasinyam. You may say that nivrutti brings about audasinyam, or you can say abhava buddhi brings about audasinyam. Both are okay. Abhava buddhi brings about brahma nivrutti, that brings about raga nivrutti, that brings about kriya nivrutti, and that brings about audasinyam. So sa can be interpreted as brahma nivrutti or kriya nivrutti, and having brought about audasinyam, having nothing else to do now, upashamyati, that also ceases there. Tasmat prasakta kriya nivrutti audasinyameva. Therefore we say brahmano hantavya ityadishu pratishedasam manyamahe. Brahmano hantavya. What is it that is pratishedham here? Pratishedartham, that nakarartham is what? Prasakta kriya nivrutti audasinyam. Prasakta kriya, that hanana kriya which has a prasanga or occasion to be there on account of the raga, nivrutti audasinyam, nivrutti upalakshita audasinyam. Audasinyam that is connected to nivrutti, and that bring about nivrutti, and thereby the audasinyam is the only artha or the prayojanam of this pratisheda. The prayojanam of pratisheda or na in brahmano na hantavya is to bring about audasinyam by way of the nivrutti. Anyatra praja. In short, nakara, the primary meaning is abhava, and that should be the meaning here, and not anya or virodha, etc. Anyatra prajapati vratadibhya. There are some cases where there is an exception, where even na also, when connected to, generally speaking, when na is connected to nama, then it should only mean either viruddha or anya, like agauhu, asuraha, etc. And here, so, or when na is, that is how nama or nama dhatu, connected to dhatu, I should not say that it necessarily means opposite, but when connected with nama, like agauhu, asuraha, it doesn't mean absence. Agauhu doesn't mean non-existence of cow. It means something other than cow. Asuraha is not absence of sura. It is opposed to sura. So there are exceptions where na, when connected with this name, nama, it doesn't mean abhava, because abhava is not applicable there. However, in this case here, wherever nakara is there, abhava should be the primary meaning, only when the context demands something else. Tasya vatoho vratam. So in Prajapati Vrata, that this is the Vrata or the vow for this Vatu or Brahmachari, when this kind of an upakrama is there, then means that whatever is mentioned in that section is for Vrata, means something to be done. Therefore when it is said Nekshetodyanta Adityam, that one should not see the rising sun, etc., that it is part of Vrata, something to be done, therefore we imagine there that it involves a sankalpa of not seeing. Some Vrata is involved there. So that is where the context demands. Context demands that na should be interpreted as the opposite, in the sense that the virodhi kriya. And therefore, so nekshana kriya, that I should not see Aditya, except for cases like that, nakara in all this pratisheda vakya should be understood as only conveying the absence or abhava. What does it mean? It means that this brahmano hantavya also does not actually, even if there is a contention about brahmano yajeta, what does it do? So jyotishtomena swarga kama yajeta. The one who is desirous of heavens should perform jyotishtoma yaga. What does it do? It appears as though that yajeta gives instruction about a kriya, which also we do not agree. We say that yajeta also only reveals ishta sadhanatvam of yaga. That yaga is ishta sadhanam, is a means for attainment of the desirable thing, which is swarga. But in any case, that ishta sadhanatvam jnanam at least brings about a kriya. So when I am desirous of swarga, and when I realize that jyotishtoma is a means for swarga, at least then it prompts me to activity. So we would accept that yajeta in all those vidhi vakyas, at least there is an intention to prompt them, indirectly or directly. But here in na hantavya, even the intention of the Vedas is not to prompt him into activity. That's what we are saying. Even na hantavya also, the intention is only nivrutti audasinyam, is only to bring about audasinyam. And therefore, in all these vakyas, there is no instruction about any activity. These Vakyas only give us instruction or Upadesha about Audasinyam or Nivritti and not any instruction. So all Pratisheda Vakyas only reveal Audasinyam, which is the nature of the self. And therefore, if you consider them as Pramanam, when Siddhartha, in revealing that which is already an existing entity, then Vedantas should also be considered as Pramanam in revealing Brahman, which is Siddhavastu. This is how Dukh Abhava Phalake Nayarthe Siddhe Nisheda Shastra Manatvavat Vedantanam Brahmani Manatvam iti Bhavaha. Dukh Abhava Phalake Nayarthe Siddhe Manavat Nisheda Shastra Manatvavat. Just as Nisheda Shastram says Brahmano Hantavya has its Manatvam Pramanyam, in Siddhe Dukh Abhava Phalake, the Dukh Abhava Phalakam, Dukha Abhava Phalam Yasya Tad Dukha Abhava Phalakam. Nayartha, the Prayojanam of Pratisheda is the Dukha Abhava, absence of Dukha. That's all that the Pratisheda actually reveals. And Dukha Abhava is already Siddha because it's there, and therefore for Siddhartha this Pratisheda Vakyas have their Pramanyam, and like that Vedantanam Brahmani Mana Siddhe Brahmani Manatvam iti Bhavaha. And so also the Vedantas have their Pramanyam in Brahman, which is Siddhavastu. This is the purport of this whole discussion. That if you don't accept that the Vedas have their Pramanyam in Siddhavastu, then you will have to reject all these Vakyas like Nahantavya. Earlier we said, you will have to reject all those words or statements which talk about Dadhi, Soma, etc., which are Siddhavastus. And subsequently also we said, you will have to reject all those Vakyas which talk about the Pratisheda. Because all these Vakyas talking about Dadhi Soma, all the words Dadhi Soma, and these Vakyas of Pratisheda, all of them have the Tatparya in revealing an existing entity. And therefore, we cannot say that Anarthakyam Atadarthanam, that the Veda Vakyas which reveal existing entities of Anarthakyam, you cannot say that. Then question remains, page 186, Ratna Prabha raises this question in the last line. Tarhi akriyarthanam anarthakyam iti sūtram kim vishayam? Then amnayasya kriyarthatvat anarthakyam atadarthanam. Atadarthanam means, so akriyarthanam. Tarhi akriyarthanam, then all those vakyas which are not connected, then this sutra. The sutra says anarthakyam atadarthanam. All those vakyas which do not have relevance to kriya, all of them are anartha, meaning all of them are useless. How to explain that sutra? We cannot say the sutra is wrong. So, amnayasya kriyartatvat anarthakyam atadarthanam. What is the meaning of that? Don't tell us that it is wrong. Then what is anarthakyam? Which are those words which are anartha? Or which are the statements which are anartha or useless? If we say that the statements revealing Siddhavastu are not useless, then what are the statements which are meant there? In that particular sutra, anarthakyam atadarthanam, akriyarthanam, those vakyas or words which are not directly or indirectly related to kriya, directly related to kriya, are useless. What is meant by which are now to be included as anartha? So what are those passages of Vedas which should be included in what we should consider as anartha or useless? Kim vishayam tatraha tasmaditi. So Bhashyakara says. Tasmad is the last word on the page 184. Tasmad Purushartha Anupayogi Upakyanadi Bhutarthavad Vishayam Anarthakya Vidhanam Drashtavyam. Tasmat Anupayogi, Purushartha Anupayogi. All those things which are not upayogi, not helpful in Purushartha, in achievement of a desirable end, such as Upakyanadi. Upakhyana means this katha. So various stories, etc., which we find in the Vedas. Bhutarthavad Vishayam. Bhutarthavad. So the Arthavada, like the Stuti, etc., which talk about what is an existing fact. So Bhutarthavad, like Katha, etc., which relate to various incidents of the things that may have happened in the past, And so Anarthakyam, Anarthakya Abhidanam Drashtavyam. This is how. Tasmat Anupayogi, that's all. So Upakhyana, etc., whichever comes, we should consider them as what is meant by that sutra, Atadarthanam. In the sutra, when it says Atadarthanam, we should understand Anupayogi, Upakyanadi, Bhutartha, so Bhutarthanam. All the Bhutavada, or Bhut Arthavada, etc., is what should be included as Anartha. And we said earlier, Mimamsakas actually Mimamsakas don't mean to say that there is any passage that is useless in Vedas. This is a the dharma or the Vedas is prachodana lakshana. It only means something that does pravartanam, or it propels you into an activity. Then you would have to say that all the statements which do not directly engage a person into activity, all of them will have to be considered as meaningless. So Purvapakshi said that all these statements will have to be considered as meaningless. Then the Mimamsakas proceed to show that there is not a single word in the Vedas which is meaningless. Even though Vidhi and the Nisheda are the direct, are the most important Vakyas, Mahavakyas or Pradhana Vakyas, there are other kinds of Vakyas like Arthavada, etc. So they have categorized the whole Vedas in several sections. Vidhi Nisheda is one, Arthavada is another one, and similar other categories they have classifications they have, and they have shown how every Vakya, directly or indirectly, relates to Kriya. How Arthavada also, by way of stuti of that vidheya, also becomes only helpful in vidhi. Or this dadhi soma, all these different dravyas also by way of being the anga of the kriya also become the part of only vidhi. And thus by categorizing the Veda Vakyas in different categories, Mimamsakas have shown how the entire Veda is arthavat. So, alright, even when this question was asked, or even if the Mimamsakas want to say Atadarthanam Anarthakyam, then what are those Vakyas that are meant only? This Arthavada Vakyas, which also Mimamsakas show. The Arthavada also is helpful in Vidhi, because we always praise something that we want to enjoin, or we condemn something that we want to prohibit. And that way praising and condemnation, which Arthavada also is only a helpful thing for the vidhi. So anarthakya abhidanam drashtavyam. Says Ratnaprabha, Vedantanam swarte phalavatvat vyartha katha vishayam tad ityartha. So purushartha anupayogi iti asya arthamaha vyartha Katha Visham. So Vyartha. Vyartha means that is useless. So Bhashyakara said Purushartha Anupayogi Upakyanadi Bhutarthavada. So Purushartha Anupayogi, that which is not helpful for Purushartha or achievement of a human end. Purushartha means what is desired by a human being. So desirable human end is called Purushartha, and those which are not helpful in achievement of that are called Anupayogi. For which Ratna Prabhakara used the word Vyartha. Vyartha means it is useless. Upakhyana padasya arthamaha. Upakyana is katha. So katha vishayam. This upakyana means katha. Vyartha kada pratipadaka arthavada vishayam anarthakya sūtram ityartha. So that anarthakya sūtram only wants to say Vyartha katha pratipadaka arthavada vishayam. That all these kathas which are Arthavada, which kathas have no relevance at all to Purushartha, they alone should be included as atadarthanam, and they alone have anarthakyam by themselves. They do not have a swarthe tatparyam, and they have pararthe tatparyam. Even anarthakyam is only in the sense of swarthe tatparya is not there. Even Mimamsakas do not say that Vedantas are also useless. Even when they categorize Vedanta as Arthavada, they say useless means they don't have tatparya in swarthe tatparya. They have tatparya in for something else, namely karma kanda. In that sense alone they mean anarthakyam, and Vedanta says no, they have swarthe tatparya. So Mimamsakas also look upon Vedanta as pramanam, and Vedantins also look upon Vedanta as pramanam, except that their categorization, or rather their appreciation of the pramanya is different. That Mimamsakas look upon Vedanta as pramanam by way of being arthavada, serving the purpose of karma kanda, whereas Vedantins look upon Vedanta as pramanam for itself. That it is a separate section, addressing a different adhikari, having its own vishaya, having its own prayojanam, and therefore swarthe tatparyam. Vedantas have tatparya or purport in their own self. This is the difference between the pramana vichara of the Mimamsakas and the Vedantins. Now, continuing Purna Bhashye, Simhavalokananyayana Vrittikaramadoktam Anuvadati. So now in conclusion of the discussion, Simhavalokananyayana, like Simhavalokan, looking back, Vrittikaramata Uktam, what was said about Vrittikaramata, Anuvadati. Bhashyakara reiterates that Vrittikaramata and then says how this mata is refuted. Says Yadapiti. Yadapi Uktam Kartavya Vidhi Anupraveshamantarena Vastumatram Uchyamanam Anarthakam Syat Saptadvipa Vasumati Ityadivata Iti Tatparihritam Rajjuriyam Nayam Sarpaha Iti Vastumatra Kathanevi Prayojanasya Drishtatva. Yadapi Uktam, that which was said by the Vrittikara. Remember, Vrittikara also accepts that Vedantas have the Tatparyam in Brahma, except that Vedantas present Brahman as Upasya Vishaya and not as Gnyeya Vishaya. That's all. So Vrittikara and the Vedantin has this difference. Vrittikara also is a Vedantin, but he is not a Vedantin in this sense. He looks upon that in the Ishkarma Siddhi the discussion will come as to how they think that having known Brahman from the Vedanta, you should do something with that knowledge. Somebody thinks that Vedantas can only give you Paroksha Jnanam. To make it Aparoksha, some meditation must be done. Some people believe that Vedanta does give Aparoksha Jnanam all right, but still something should be done in order that that knowledge culminates into what we call moksha. These different opinions are there. Somebody thinks that moksha is possible in this life, somebody thinks moksha is not possible in this life, in the other life alone it can come. So these opinions existed before Shankaracharya. And that's the reason why these opinions are taken up for discussion. And sometimes shades of that opinion are held by some other teachers also, and so some minor differences in opinions remain. Yadapi Uktam Kartavya Vidhi Anupraveshamantarena Vastumatram Uchyamanam Anarthakam Syat. Said Kartavya Vidhi Anupraveshamantarena. He said that Kartavya Vidhi Anupraveshamantare Vastumatram Uchyamanam. Merely Vastu, such as Brahman Uchyamanam. If Vedanta only talks about Brahman, which is Vastu, merely an existing thing. And if you say that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that is the Vastumatra Kathanam. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, what does it say? Brahma is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. That is called Vastumatra Kathanam. Merely saying what is the thing, what's the nature of a thing. Vidhi Anupraveshamantarena. And that statement has no pravesha, no connection or relation with any vidhi. So he said that Anarthakam Syat. these word vakyas will be anarthaka. Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma, Vijnanamanandam Brahma, all these vakyas, which only reveal the vastu, they all of them should be considered as anarthaka in themselves. Therefore, according to Vrittikara, they should be connected to some vidhi vakyas such as Tad Vijijñāsasva, Atmanamityeva Upasita. So, according to them, these are the principles, not Tattvamasi. So, they believe that it is not Tattvamasi or Aham Brahmasmi, which is the primary vakyas of Vedanta, but Tad Vijijñāsasva, Sa Anveshtavya, Sa Anveshtavya, Sa Vijijñāsitavya. So, these vakyas, Drashtavya, these vakyas which imply vidhi, according to them, they are the primary vakyas, and Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi or all of these vakyas must be connected with them. So by themselves, Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma would be anarthakam syat, would be considered as meaningless unless you connect it with some vidhi. If you don't connect it with vidhi, by itself it is meaningless. Like Saptadvipa Vasumati, that is a statement. Vasumati means Prithvi, earth has 7 islands. Ityadivat Adi. Says Purnanandiya, Raja Asau Gacchati iti vakyam Adi Shabda Grahyam. Raja Asau Gacchati, hey, the king is going, So what does it do to you? This doesn't do anything. This kind of a statement, the king is going, what purpose does it serve? Doesn't serve any purpose. In what manner does this vakya enable you to achieve a certain purushartha? Please tell us. Nothing. Saptadvipa Vasumati, earth has 7 islands. Nice to know. So what? What does it do to me? Similarly, Satyam Jnanamanantam Brahma. Brahma is Satyam Jnanamanantam. So that's all right. So what do we do with it? And therefore, if there is nothing to be done with it, all these statements become useless. Says Yatha Lokavartam Nimittikritya Pravuttasya Rajasau Gacchati iti Siddharajagamana Pratibhadaka Vakyasya Prayojana Bhavaha Tadvad Vedanta Shastrasya iti Bhavaha. Lokavartam Nimittikritya, just Laukika Varta, just useless, some conversation. So sometimes people have, it's not useless conversation, but it is just conversation which has a different purpose. It doesn't have purpose in conversation, it is a purpose in establishing a certain atmosphere. Sometimes, you meet a person, it's not that you always talk Vedanta and philosophy and everything else, or you may wish to talk, still you start in a different way. You have to first establish a rapport. So it's how are you doing? And it's a good day this day, isn't it? It's nice weather, etc. You talk, which is all, what is it? It's a beautiful morning, isn't it? Yes, it is. It doesn't serve any purpose in that sense. Still, you don't consider this kind of a conversation as a useless conversation. The conversation also has a meaning, purpose to serve. That it wants to set up a relation between the two persons of such a nature that they can talk about a serious thing. And therefore, it is not that we should dismiss the conversation or every vyavahara as useless because it is not directly related to Vedanta. Some people believe that everything should be Vedanta alone and everything. Then you should not eat and drink and do nothing, But then every other vyavahara will become useless. It's not so. Very often, vyavahara also is required only to set up a certain atmosphere where, after all, this atmosphere is set up here, then alone this kind of a dialogue can go on. Otherwise, why should you require a hall and why do you need chairs and microphone and stuff like that? Why do you need these things? What does it have to do with Vedanta? And why should you have a certain kind of a tablecloth? What's the big deal about it? Why should you have this and that? Well, all of that is there only to set up a certain atmosphere, which is also required in order for the communication to take place. Communication will take place only when a certain atmosphere is built up between the two persons or any number of persons. Unless that tuning up is there, how will you communicate? And so you tune up, like radio. Right away you don't start music. It takes a little while to tune up, to the station that you want. Similarly also when people meet, it takes a little while. So depends on their acquaintance and depends on their moods and whatever else. It may take a little while for the tuning up to take place. And so Raja Asau Gacchati, Laukikam, Laukavartam Nimittikritya Pravrittasya, this kind of a conversation. Raja Asau Gacchati, this kind of a thing. This king is going. Siddharajagamana Pratibhadaka Vakyasya Prayojana Bhava. This has no purpose to serve. He also knows and I also know. It's beautiful. Well, we don't talk about mornings and evenings there, but then in West this is a very common topic. It's beautiful morning, isn't it this? It's something unusual. Every day sun shines here and there. Well, of course, these days we have value for the sun also, because sometimes for a week he doesn't appear. But where for 6 months out of a year you don't see the sun, there seeing the sun also becomes an occasion to talk about or to rejoice. It's a beautiful morning, it's this, that, and like that, and they express a certain enthusiasm about it. And otherwise, so that if you can look upon that as a prayojanam, otherwise this is no prayojanam to serve. I know it, that's all right. Talk about something, what do you want, so you can place the person in the proper place. So, tatat Vedanta Shastra Seti Bhava. So they say Vedanta Shastra also is like this. Raja Asau Gacchati, Saptadvipa Vasumati, etc. And so Satyam Jnanamanandam Brahma, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, all of these Vakyas are only that nature. This was what was said. Tat Parihrutam, that has already been refuted. We have already done it. So not only the Purva Paksha is Alochanam of Purva Paksha, but answer also is brought to our memory. Just to bring back Simha Avlokanjayana. Rajjuriyam Nayam Sarvayadi Vastumatra Kathanevi Prayojanasya Drishtatva. We said earlier. Rajjuhiyam Nayam Sarva. This is Rajju and not Sarva. Idi Vastumatra Kathanevi. So when you say this is only Rajjuhu, this is a rope and not a snake, what are you doing? Made Vastumatra Kathanam. You are only saying the Vastu as it is. Prayojanasya Drishtatvat. But that also serves a great Prayojanam. What does it do? It removes the Brahma pertaining to Rajju, and it removes all the other consequences of that Brahma. So when Brahma Nivritti takes place, the fear that was there on account of seeing that object goes away when one learns that this is a Rajju and not a snake. And so also all the difficulties that arise within our own self on account of taking the Atma as a limited being, it goes away when this Vakya strikes, Aham Brahma. When it strikes. When it does strike, and when will it strike? Only when we keep on trying trying that. As long as you are trying something else, this will never strike you. But Aham Brahma, limitless I am, Purnaham, that when it strikes me, then I realize that all the kind of complexes I entertain, and all the fears and all the sadness that I entertain is all out of place. It is only born of Brahma. So, prayojanasya drishtatvat. Therefore, even talking about the true nature of the self also has prayojanam. Because there is Brahma. If there is no Brahma, then perhaps it doesn't serve any prayojanam. Saptadvipa Vasumati is all right. Maybe it doesn't serve a prayojanam. But that's not the case with everything that is existing. If for an existing thing there is what we call a Brahma, for the self there is Brahma. And therefore, by mentioning or by revealing the nature of the thing as it is, the Brahma Nivritti takes place, and that way, whatever consequences are there on account of Brahma, they also become eliminated. So this is already done. Prayojanasya Drishta. So this has been already, so Parihrutam, meaning it has already been refuted. Then says further, so Yadapi Ityadi Spashtartham Ratnava said doesn't see any need to give any explanation. Further, Nanu Shruta Brahmanopi Yatha Purvam Samsaritva Darshanat Narajju Swarupa Kathanavata Arthavatvam Ityuktam. Alright, we had said other things also. Shruta, this also was, Purva Paksha was raised at the end, towards the end of the introduction of the Sutra, in the second Varnaka. Nanu, Shruta Brahmanopi, even for the person who is Shruta Brahma, means who have listened to Brahman. Yatha Purvam Samsaritva Darshanat. You find the fellows who know Brahman also are like samsara, like us only. So the question is, even the wise people who are the knowers of Brahman also appear to be samsaris like us. They seem to be doing the same thing that we are doing. Yatha Purvam Samsaritva Darshanat. We would have expected some kind of a fundamental transformation in them in terms of their conduct. But we find that even wise men also conduct themselves in the same manner as we do. They also eat the same food and drink the same water and do the same kind of things that we do. Therefore, we are samsaris, so they also must be samsaris. Yatha purva samsaritva darshanat. Rajju swarupa kathanavat arthavatvam idi uktam. So, na rajju swarupa kathanavat arthavatvam. Therefore, you cannot say that aham brahma, that knowledge has done anything to them. So, rajjuhu yam, this is rajju, this knowledge does something to the person because it removes his bhranti. Here on the other hand, we don't find that. Aham brahma, even when he knows he is Brahman, he still needs food. What's the big deal? What has been served by knowing aham brahma? So, aham brahma, still he needs the same kind of things. You still need food, you still are hungry, and still thirsty, and still require all these things. So what purpose is knowledge has served? We would think that aham brahma would do something in him, So somebody says this particular one was flying, Swami, so what does it do all this? Aham brahma, this knowledge, doesn't seem to do anything. And therefore the person remains essentially the same kind of a person as a samsari that we are. This is his contention. He is not saying here that people in spite of listening to Brahman do not know it. So, Shravanayapi bahu viryo na labhya, Shrunvantopi bahavo yanna vidyuhu. That in spite of listening to Brahman, many people still do not know. That is not his idea, contention. He says that in spite of knowing Brahman also, people seem to remain in the samsara, and they seem to conduct themselves in the same manner as other samsaris do. And therefore, we do not it does not look as though knowledge of Satyam Jnanavantam Brahma or Aham Brahma has served any purpose for this purpose, that they have relieved them or released them from samsara. It doesn't look, according to them, samsara means the state of embodiment. This is the main contention. Samsara means a state of embodiment. These people are still embodied beings, meaning even after knowledge also, they walk and talk. They still have body. How do you say that they are released? How do you say they are free? Is a person free to fly wherever he wants? Is the person free to know whatever he wants? Is the person free to do whatever he wants? That's what is called freedom. And we find that the person doesn't enjoy that freedom at all. He is still bound by all the laws of body and all the laws of nature. How do you say that knowing that I am Brahman makes him free? So we find that the knowers of Brahman also seem to conduct themselves in the same manner as the rest of the people, and therefore they are also samsaris. If anything, they are bigger samsaris, but then they are samsaris all right. So, samsayatha puram samsaritva darshanat na rajju swarupa kathanavat. Like this statement that yam rajjuhu, although that statement did something to this person, but aham brahma doesn't seem to do anything to this person's iti uktam. This we have stated. You not answered that. Now, Ratnaprabha says, he has his own opinion about this. Shravana jnana matrat samsara anivruttavapi sakshatkara jivataheva muktihi durapahnava iti sadushtantamaha. Shravana jnana matrat samsara anivruttavapi. That merely by Shravanam, even though samsara is not eliminated, sakshatkara, so now he separates sakshatkara, aparoksha jnanam from Shravana jnanam. Shravana jnana matra. So whatever knowledge Shravanam gives, even if that does not remove samsara, sakshatkara, the idea is when the Shravanam culminates into sakshatkara. That's the idea. That Shravanam or Shastra Vichara must ultimately culminate to sakshatkara, means into the aparoksha knowledge. Avagati paryantam jnanam. So it is true that merely by listening to Brahman, the Vedanta, for a period of time, it may not necessarily remove all the obstacles. But one has to expose oneself to this vichara and also do whatever is necessary. Shravanam also requires a certain qualification, certain preparation on my part, and therefore I work upon that part, at the same time expose myself to this teaching and do it long enough until it has served the purpose. That's all. As Bada Swami always used to give the illustration, that here is gunpowder and you strike a match, nothing happens to gunpowder. It may not happen if the gunpowder has moisture in that. So gunpowder should be dry. That is the qualification that is required. Sometimes you light a lamp. Whenever these inaugurations have to take place, the lamp lighting ceremony is always there. It's always an embarrassing. You can never, that lamp doesn't get lighted for 10 minutes. They make such thick wick And so much ghee and oil is there, whatever is there, it is soaked in that. And very often even that moisture also is not removed from that. So every time tad happens, you try to light that lamp and it doesn't get lighted for so long, and this guest is waiting there. And therefore, when will it get lighted? As long as the wick has any moisture in that, so long it will not get lighted. The wick must be free from moisture. Then alone the lamp will be lighted. So that preparation is required. And so also the mind should become like the dry gunpowder. Or like the dry wick, you strike a match, and that is how. So that preparation is required in terms of removal of moisture in the form of likes and dislikes and various complexes and reactions. So only when the mind becomes free from that, then the teaching will have its effect. Teaching will have effect anyway. But the effect will be in varying degree depending upon the preparation of the mind. So teaching will have effect regardless. It cannot be that it has not done something. Even though people have contention that after listening to years of Vedanta, nothing has happened to the people, but I would not say that. Something has to happen. It may not be that something has happened in the criterion that we consider as happening, but definitely things have to happen. This has to have effect. To the extent that this is understood, to that extent definitely it has to have an effect. And except the happening may take its own time. Evident happening may take its own time, but definitely things have to happen. Regardless of that, it is possible that even after exposing oneself to a period of Shastra Shravanam, samsara anivrittopi, samsara nivritti may not have taken place because still the obstacles are there in terms of even the lack of clarity may be there, various doubts may be there, this habitual error is there, so many obstacles are there. So samsara is not yet eliminated. But then, when all the obstacles are removed, and when that knowledge becomes an abiding knowledge, that's what we call sakshatkara. So when the knowledge becomes abiding or spontaneous, muktihi durapakhnava, then you cannot reject that or you cannot dismiss that mukti. Mukti is, because we will now say that mukti is already the nature of Atma. And therefore mukti is not something to be created, mukti is already there. All you have to do is to remove obstacles to that mukti. So it's a matter of removing obstacles to moksha rather than creating a moksha. They always think that moksha is something to be created. It is something that has to happen. We say that moksha is something to be really revealed, moksha is something to be unveiled rather than to be brought about. This is the main difference here in these arguments. So Bhashyakara says, Atra uchyate na avagata brahmatma bhavasya yatha purvam samsaritvam shakyam darshayitum veda pramana janita brahmatma bhava virodhat. Says avagata brahmatma bhavasya. Avagataha brahmatma bhavaha. Brahma itself is Atma. So Brahma eva Atma, this knowledge is called brahmatma bhavaha. Avagata means known. So this brahmatma bhavaha, that Atma is Brahman, this is known by whom? Na yathapuram samsaritvam shakyam darshayitum. You cannot say that he is a samsari as before. Even after knowing, I would say that even after knowing indirectly. Even when this paroksha jnanam takes place, that I am Brahman, that I am mukta, even that itself does a wonderful job in relieving the mind from many things. That is what brings about vairagya. Actually, to understand that samsara is mithya. Ashochan, all the shoka or the grief is mithya. Even though I find myself grieving, but then when I at least think about it, I realize that grief is mithya. Samsara is mithya. Dukkha is mithya. And that sukha or mukti alone is satyam. As I can even see in my own mind, this fact, that itself brings about a great relief. It definitely brings about a cessation or pursuit of all unnecessary useless things that I was doing earlier, thinking that they are useful. So naturally, slowly and slowly, the use that I saw, or the value that I was imposing upon the things, that value slowly drops off in light of this understanding. And so it is not that sakshatkara is it's a growing process. You keep growing with this, that's all. And this is what we should understand. that we are not waiting here for some event to happen. It's a constant everyday growth. And the growth may vary depending upon the person, depending upon the nature of obstacles, depending upon the clarity, depending upon preparation. But definitely it takes place constantly. And therefore it is not possible that once person having been exposed to this and having understood basically what Vedanta has to say, that the person will do the same again. It cannot happen. Yad gatvana nivartante. While talking about Paramadharma, so they're talking about the name, in the inauguration this was said. Yad gatvana nivartante. Having gone where, there is no return. Whoever comes here will not go back the same. In that sense. That with some slight change, the person will go back. To the extent that this has sunk into the mind, or this has been understood, to that extent, it has to bring about a change in the person. And therefore, it cannot be that listening to any truth, why Vedanta? Listening about anything, knowing anything, whether it is physics or chemistry or anything about life, you know it and you are that much better off than what you were before you knew it. And similarly also, knowing the truth, you are definitely better off than what you were. And knowing the truth as a self, you are definitely extremely well off. So, yatha purvam samsaritvam na shakyam darshayitum. No one can say that the person is a samsari as before, and definitely the person who has known the self as Brahman, you cannot show or cannot prove that he is a samsari. Why? Veda pramana janita brahmatmaha virodhat. The brahmatma bhava is pramana janita. If samsaritvam were pramana janitam, then we would have accepted that samsaritvam can negate brahmatma bhava. But Atma is Brahman, I am Brahman, this knowledge is born of pramanam. Which is the pramanam? Veda pramanam. For which perception, inference, etc. are not the pramanam. And Veda is the pramanam, and that pramanam, these words, generate in me this knowledge, make me see this fact. Pramanam is that which makes me see a fact. Like eyes enable me to see the color. So also Vedanta makes me see the fact about myself, makes me see the fact about God, makes me see the fact about the world. So it makes me see the fact about things. Which facts are there and I have to see them. And I am not able to see only because of Bhranti. Because I have conclusions about them, therefore I do not see the existing fact. And all that the words of Vedanta do is to serve the purpose of removal or elimination of that Bhranti. So words of Vedanta also do not reveal the truth in that sense, except that they only seek to remove the obstacles to the truth. Truth is always self-revealing. Every truth is always self-revealing. It is for you to see. And so this falling of an apple reveals the gravity. It's for one to see. That's all. After all, how does even a scientist discover the truth? From the thing that you and I observe. Except that that observation leads him to something else to see the truth which is there. So truth is always evident in its own way, except that it requires a preparation of our own mind, which is pramanam to see. And so also, Veda or Vedanta is a pramanam to reveal the true nature of the self. And we call it pramanam, which creates what we call prama or abhaditam jnanam. And therefore Vedas do create knowledge, which is abhaditam, which cannot be refuted or negated by any other means of knowledge. So you cannot negate that aham Brahma, that cannot be negated by any perception or an inference. You can infer that I am not Brahman. You cannot perceive that I am not Brahman. If you think that you are perceiving, you are not perceiving I as not Brahman. You are perceiving body as not Brahman. You are perceiving mind as not Brahman. You cannot say that I perceive the self as not Brahman. It is body and the mind which is taken to be self. That is looked upon by us as self, and therefore we conclude that I am not Brahman. But even when I say I am not Brahman, it is mind is not Brahman. That's what I am saying. My intellect is not Brahman. My body is not Brahman. That's exactly what we are saying in effect. And that's what we call a product of Brahma. And when that Brahma goes, when I see the fact as revealed by Vedanta, then your contention that it's still a samsari, it contradicts Veda. We are talking with a Vaidika here. So here talking to a Vrittikara or whoever is, who accepts Veda as pramanam. So do you accept Veda as pramanam or not? Yes. Then Vedas reveal that Atma is Brahma. If it is Veda is Pramanam, then the knowledge revealed by Veda also must be valid knowledge. If you say that in spite of this knowledge one remains a samsari, that means that you are not accepting that Vedanta is revealing the true knowledge. That means you are contradicting Veda as, you are actually refuting Veda as Pramanam. That's the problem here. He is a Vaidika, therefore we can say. If he is not a Vaidika, then you would argue in a different way. So Veda Pramana Brahmatma Bhava Virodhat. Since he also accepts Veda as Pramanam, and Vedas clearly reveal Atma is Brahman or Brahman is Atma, and so if you say that, in spite of having known Brahman as Atma, and still is a samsari, that means that you are questioning the Pramanyam of Veda. So Brahmaham iti sakshatkara virodhat ityartha. Aham Brahma iti sakshatkara is there, Brahman is asamsari. And the Vedas, when they say Tattvamasi, asamsaritvamasi, you are a samsari. And when he says Aham Brahma, I am a samsari. And therefore, that knowledge is a samsari Atma is that which will be contradicted if you insist that he is still a samsari. When he knows the self as a samsari, how can you insist that he is still a samsari? Now Bhashyakara continues. Okay. Nahi shariradi atma iti says now Bhashya. Nahi shariradi atma abhimaninah dukkha bhayadimatvam drishtam iti tasyaiva veda pramana janita brahmatmavagame tadabhimana nivrittau tadeva mithya jnana nimittam dukkha bhayadimatvam bhavati iti shakyam kalpayitum. नहीं शरीरादि आत्माभिमानिनः शरीरादि आत्माभिमानिनः. One is abhiman of this notion of Atma in as shariradi. So one who takes the body, the sense organs, the mind, the intellect as Atma, which is called abhimanam. Abhimanam is reducing the Atma to the size of the body, or reducing the self which is without any size, which is all pervading, or which is limitless or boundless. Reducing it to a certain size is manam. So we actually are measuring that Atma, which is beyond all the measurement. So abhimanam is nothing but reducing Atma to the level of the body, or the mind, or the self, sense organs, etc. This is what we call abhimanam. So shariradi Atma abhimanam. Sharirada in the sharira, etc. There is Atma abhimanam, that it is Atma, this kind of an abhimanam. Abhimanina, for a person who has this abhimanam or this notion or conclusion that body etc. is Atma, dukkha bhayadimatvam drishtam. We find in him dukkha and bhaya. So there is bhaya, because the body is the self, therefore any threat to the body becomes threat to me. Any pain in the body becomes my pain. Or any pain in the mind becomes my pain. And therefore, when the body and the mind are taken to be Atma, then there is necessarily fear. Because body is threatened always with time and with disease and with death. And so I also constantly feel threatened, so there is a constant fear. And body always is, so vyadi grastam kalevaram, some of the other vyadi is always there, dukkha is always there in the body, and therefore there is dukkha also. So dukkha bhayadikam drishtam. We do find that in a person who is strongly identified with the body, mind, etc., we find him constantly fearful and also sad or unhappy. Just because this is the case, that does not mean that tasyaiva veda pramana janita brahmatmavagame. The same person who so far thought that the body, mind, etc. is Atma, now that is exposed to this teaching, and as a result of that, when he comes to know that Brahma I am, and not this body, this mind I am not, they are all drashya. I am the drashta, I am the sakshi, avabhasaka. They are all jada, I am Chetana. There are many, naham ekasat, tad jadam yasat. Vigrahendriya pranadhitamah, naham ekam sat, naham ekasat, tad jadam yasat. Vigraha, Indriya, Prana, Dhi, Tamaha. This body, sense organs, the prana, the mind, the ignorance, none of this I am. Naham, I am not. Who am I? Ekasat. I am one and Sat, the truth. Tad Jadam, all this group is what? Jadam. Asat is Mithya, and therefore, with this kind of a discriminative knowledge, once it is known, Veda Pramana Janita, this is a Pramana. Brahmatma Agame, Tat Abhimana Nivruttau, then Abhimana identification of the body, then Nivrutti takes place. So Vedanta also only seeks Nivrutti. Nivrutti of what? Abhimanam. So Brahma Nivrutti. So all these Vakyas which only reveal the nature of things, all of them have the purport in their Brahma Nivrutti. So Brahmano Hantavya also Brahma Nivrutti. In that case. Because that Hananam was looked upon as Sukhasadhanam because of Brahma, and that Brahma Nivrutti takes place. Here also, there is Brahma on account of identification, body, etc. and Brahmatma Avagame. When Avagama of the knowledge of Brahman is Atma has taken place, Tat Abhimana Nivruttau. Shariradi Abhimana Nivruttau. When Abhimana, identification, body, etc. is Nivrittam, meaning it is removed. Tadeva mithya jnana nimittam dukkha bhayadimatvam bhavati iti shakyam kalpeti. It is not possible. That nahi goes with dukkhadimatvam bhavati. So bhayadimatvam nahi bhavati iti anvayaha. Nahi should go with bhayadimatvam. Then you cannot say that the same kind of fear, the same kind of sadness, etc. is there in the person even after the identification of the upadhi is gone away, is not possible. Dukkha bhayadimatvam bhavati iti shakyam kalpayitum. You cannot imagine or you cannot project that this bhaya, dukkha, etc. continues to remain. Because it is not that the body is cause of fear. If body is cause of fear, then the fear will remain as long as the body is. If the mind is cause of dukkha, then dukkha will remain as long as mind is. It is not that the body is cause of fear. What is the cause of fear? Dehadi Atma Abhimanam. That identification of the body, or taking the body to be Atma, this is the cause of fear. Similarly also, taking the mind to be Atma, this is the cause of sadness. That the mind is such and such, and therefore I am the mind, and therefore I am such and such. So this is the difference that is not understood by them, which is the point will be brought out. That presence of body is not the cause of fear, or is not samsara. Presence of mind is not samsara. They think that as long as body and mind are there, so long the person is samsari. No. It is dehadi atmatva abhimanam. It is the identification with dehadi, that is what is samsara. That's what brings about the fear, dukkha, etc. And once the cause of the fear, so it is being pointed out here, that the cause of the bhaya dukkhadi is not the dehadi, but dehadi atma abhimanam. And so when the cause of the deha dukkha bhaya, with abhimanam, when that has gone away, then mithya jnana nimittam dukkha bhayadimatvam. The dukkha bhaya, etc., being possessed of dukkha bhaya, etc., was born of mithya jnanam. When that mithya jnanam goes away, then that product of mithya jnanam dukkha bhayadimatvam cannot be there. So na bhavati, that's all. Or bhavati iti na shakyam kalpayitum. You cannot say that this still happens. Mithya jnana nimittam iti dehabhimana nimittam ityartha. Identification of deha, etc. Bhashyakara gives an example. Nahi dhaninah grahasthasya dhanabhimaninah dhanapahara nimittam dukkham drishtam iti tasyeva pravrajitasya dhanabhimanahitasya tadeva dhanapahara nimittam दुःखं भवति न च कुण्डलिनः कुण्डलित्वाभिमाननिमित्तम् सुखं दृष्टम् इति तस्यैव कुण्डलवियुक्तस्य कुण्डलित्वाभिमानरहितस्य तदेव कुण्डलित्वाभिमाननिमित्तम् सुखं भवति. Both the illustrations are given. Both sukha and dukkha that happen because of some incidents, both of them are due to Brahma. Sukha which is there because of Atma is okay. It's true. Sukha that happens because of nimitta is Brahma. And dukkha that happens because of nimitta is definitely Brahma. Because dukkha is not in Atma. Sukha is in Atma. So sukha cannot be called Brahma. But if that sukha is because of some cause, then that sukha comes from there is a Brahma. So both these Brahma are first pointed out and say that when this Brahma is not there, how the product also is not there. Nahi, dhaninaha gruhastasya. A person is a gruhastha, is a householder. Then alone he can be dhani, means a wealthy person. You cannot, a wealthy person can only be a grihastha. At least in those days, grihastha alone is qualified to perform the karma. And then he alone can be wealthy. So a person is wealthy and a householder. Dhanabhimaninaha. And naturally, therefore, there is a pride or there is an identification with dhana, that I am a dhani, I am a rich man or a wealthy person. Dhanapaharanittam dukkham dushtam. When such a person who is very closely identified with the wealth and therefore considers himself a wealthy person, when I call myself wealthy, that shows that I am identified with the wealth. Dhanapaharanittam. For whatever reason, suppose that wealth is taken away from him. Then dukkham drishtam, we find him visibly disturbed, visibly perturbed. I am a prime minister, I am a president of Soviet Union, let us say. That identification with the position. And all of a sudden you find yourself not the president. Naturally dukkha will come because my sukha was dependent upon my identification. So whenever I am identified with something, or whenever my security or happiness, etc., depends upon a thing other than myself, then the loss of that thing is going to bring about insecurity and dukkha naturally. So dhanapahar nimittam dukkham dushtam iti, just because this is a tasyeva, probably